Are you like me? Are you drawn to extremes? Well, if so, you're gonna love this video series. That's right, we're talking about the world's most powerful handgun. It's the 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum. What I have here is the most extreme handgun in the world. This is the Smith and Wesson model S&W 500 chambered in 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum. That's right. This handgun is powerful enough to unleash 2,600 foot-pounds of energy on big game or other foes. That's right, it's the only handgun in the world that I would feel comfortable with against a full-size Alaskan grizzly bear. That's a debate for another day. I want to, in this video, give you an introduction, do a little bit of a walkthrough. We're going to do a multi-part loading sequence. We're going to load 350 grain bullets. We're going to load 500 grain bullets, both jacketed, both Hornady XTP. We're going to do some ballistic analysis. We're going to do some shooting, and we're going to save a bunch of other stories for later. So let's take a look at the handgun. So let me give you an overview of this amazing revolver. This is the S&W 500 from Smith and Wesson. It comes with an 8 3/8 inch barrel. This is available in different barrel lengths, the 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum. I like the 8 3/8 because it's the most extreme. It's going to give you the most velocity. It comes with an integrated muzzle brake and compensator. The muzzle brake is going to help tame recoil, and the compensator is going to help keep the muzzle down for quick successive follow-up shots. Comes with an interchangeable front sight. The high-vis front sight is standard, which I really like for outdoor shooting. This is built on Smith and Wesson's X frame, which is their largest revolver handgun frame, and it comes with the satin stainless finish, which I really like. I've got this on my model 629, which I also carry for bear defense, more for black bear. And it helps hide scratches. It looks great. It's stainless. You don't have to worry about it outdoors and in inclement weather, that kind of thing. It's got a fluted 5-shot cylinder, so you've got 5 shots of the world's most powerful handgun ammunition at your disposal. And it weighs in at 69.1 ounces or 4.3 pounds. So this is a very substantial piece of gear. It was introduced in 2003. It was the world's most powerful handgun then and still is. And if you're up for an adventure, I highly recommend that you try it out and or purchase it. Why don't we now transition to the Ultimate Reloader loading lab and load some of our very own 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum ammunition. I'm looking forward to this. Well, here we are in the Ultimate Reloader Mountain Studio. This is the very first video that I've filmed in this new facility. Still getting set up. Bear with me. I got a story coming up on that. It's pretty exciting. Can't wait to share that with you. Now, before we get into the hand-loading 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum, I wanted to take an opportunity to really paint a picture of the order of magnitude this cartridge represents. So let's take a look at a lineup of popular handgun cartridges and their corresponding ballistics so we can see how 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum compares to other popular cartridges. Well, here we have, from left to right, some cartridges that should be familiar to you. Starting on the left, 22 long rifle, about 150 foot-pounds of energy, and actually a lethal cartridge to humans. Next to that, we've got 9mm Parabellum. It's going to be right around 400 foot-pounds at a higher velocity compared to 45 ACP, which we've got next to it, which is also at about 400 foot-pounds of energy, with the trade-off that it's got more momentum. Next, we've got 40 Smith & Wesson, which is going to weigh in at about 450 foot-pounds. Next to that, we've got 10mm Auto, which is going to be at about 700 foot-pounds. Next to that, we've got 44 Magnum, which is going to be 1,000, 1,200 and more. Pretty decent cartridge. And then we have the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. Now these are the two cartridges that I'm going to be demonstrating, these two loads. On the left-hand side, we have a 350 grain Hornady XTP load. This is loaded way down. I call this practically a dry fire load compared to full power loads. 350 grain bullet traveling at about 850 feet per second gives us about 550 foot-pounds. Still a powerful cartridge, but pretty easy to shoot, easy on the joints and on the hands. At the far right, we have a near full power load. This is a 500 grain Hornady XTP flat point bullet. Lots of punch, 1,335 feet per second approximately, weighing in at right around 2,000 foot-pounds. So that's kind of the lineup of cartridges. That's the loads we're going to be talking about. Let's get into loading. So let's do a quick overview of the components that we're going to use for these two loads. First, I'm using Starline 500 Smith and Wesson brass, brand new brass. Been using them for 10 years exclusively for new handgun brass, and very excited to announce they've come on board as a partner recently, so you can look for some deals, promotions, and savings there. We've got the two different loads. The 500 grain load is our full power load. This is very, very potent, using a Hornady XTP flat point bullet for that. Using CFE-BLK. Now, CFE-BLK powder from Hodgdon was designed for subsonic 300 blackout, which I'm going to show. Don't worry, it's coming up. But it also works very well for other cartridges. I've used it for 7.62 by 39 with great results, and it turns out it works really well for 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum. We're using large rifle primers for both from Federal, and again, loading for 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum is almost more like loading for rifle. You're going to use a large rifle cavity or chamber in your powder major. I've got a 44 grain load for our full power load. Compare that to 25 grains would be a typical load for something like 223. Totally amazing. For a lighter load, I almost call this the dry firing load because it's so tame in comparison with our full power load. Again, using Hornady XTP, this time XTP Mag, 350 grain bullet. Using CFE pistol, it's kind of my standard pistol powder. It's what I had on hand. Didn't find load data for it, but I was able to work up a load safely, and it turns out it works really well. Great way to get people acquainted to this huge, amazing, and intimidating handgun. So those are the components. Let's move over to the press and start doing some loading. So let's quickly run over the equipment setup. I'm using the Hornady Lock and Load AP 5-station progressive reloading press. Got a number 44 shell plate, which is good for 500 S&W Magnum and other calibers. We've got two dedicated powder measures because I've got 12 grains of powder on my 350 grain load, the really light load. I've got 44 grains on the full power load. And what's nice about this is I've got them both set up to the proper height. They can just drop them in. They're set to the proper charge weight. All I need to do is adjust the seating depth because the profile of the bullets are different. Speaking of that, I'm using a Lee 3-die pistol set, which works great on the Lock and Load AP. I am going to add a factory crimp die because I want to separate the seating and the crimping into two stations. So that's our equipment setup. Let's start loading some 350 grain loads. Everything is set up. We've got primers, we've got powder, we've got bullets, so we're ready to start progressive loading. Now, you'll note I've got no sizing die in station number 1 because we're using brand new brass. As soon as I start reloading the brass, we're definitely going to be using that sizing die. So in station number 2, we've got the expander. This is a powder through expander. If we put the funnel adapter in, it's just going to act as a fixed expander. That puts a slight trumpeting bell on the end of the case mouth so that the bullet is going to sit in nicely. Station number 3, we've got our powder charge. Station number 4, I've got empty at this point. And just ahead of station number 5, I'm going to do a visual on my powder. We're using 12 grains out of almost 50 that we can put into this case, but with a large case mouth, I have no problem seeing that. So that's going to get us up to full progressive loading. All right, I loaded a bunch of our lighter loads, ran the press down. I'm out of primers, so I'm going to restock my primers, and then I'll show you just how easy it is to switch between these two loads. Okay, stocked up on primers, swapped out my bullet tray with 500 grain bullets. Now it's time to swap powder measures. So this is the ultimate setup. You drop one powder measure off, you drop one in, and we're good to go for powder. Now, Hornady doesn't actually sell a full case activated powder measure like this, but I did partner up with Mid-South Shooter Supply, so I'll drop a link to this product. You can get the complete ready to go turnkey package so that you can have two powder measures, one for pistol, one for rifle. You can use either micrometer, use the metering inserts. they're quick change because it's lock and load. So that's all good. Okay, one more really important step, and that's to reset the seating depth, because as I mentioned, this is a longer bullet, so we've got to back things off a little bit. Okay, this is really fast and really easy if you have a complete cartridge that you want to duplicate, which I do, and I always keep at least one for this very purpose. So all we're going to do is back this off, because this is a taller bullet. I'm going to raise the ram all the way to the top. The crimp is the same because the case is the same. Now we're going to back this plug down, and I can feel it hit firmly. First round that comes off the press, I'm going to make sure we're centered in the cannula and make micro adjustments correspondingly. We are ready to roll. From here, the process is exactly the same as I showed with the 350 grain load. So I'm going to get busy here and load up a bunch of ammo. And of course, we're going to make sure that we check our powder. Look at that. That is a large quantity of powder. That's 44 grains. So I'm going to load up a bunch of ammo, and I will see you guys at the range. So in order to illustrate the difference between the 350 grain loads that we loaded and the 500 grain loads that we loaded, which are pushing 1,330 feet per second and almost 2,000 foot-pounds of energy, I wanted to show you side by side what they'll do to some antifreeze jugs filled with water. So let me make sure, got one round of each here loaded. First, the light 350 grain load. All right, well, made a hole. Let's see what the 500 grain load will do. Whoa! Big difference. Well, 500 Smith and Wesson Magnum is a ton of fun. I got more content coming up. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't want to miss any of the action on ultimatereloader.com, please subscribe to my channel. I got more shooting and reloading to do, so we'll see you all later.